Hi everybody, I'm Dr. John Douillard and welcome to LifeSpa.com, where we prove the ancient medical wisdom of Ayurveda with modern science. And today I want to talk about the epidemic of our time, something called loneliness and isolation. In 2023, the Surgeon General put out a report called the epidemic of loneliness and isolation, which is linked to increased rates of soaring rates of anxiety, depression, suicides, and mental health concerns. And I want to talk about the Western medicine approach, the research and the science behind it, as well as the Ayurvedic perspective. So let's kind of dig in here. If you're watching this on any of my channels, please subscribe. If you're watching on my website at lifespa.com, please subscribe to our newsletter, get this information on a regular basis, become a part of our family, and also check out our Ayurvedic store with all of our organic or Ayurvedic products there at lifespa.com as well. All right, so let's dive in. You know, the information age really started in 1970 when the computer was first invented, and we started looking at screens versus each other, right? That was bad. And then by 1980, computers became something more mainstream. So now everybody was looking at a screen instead of each other. By the 1990s, we had email. So now instead of talking on the phone, we were emailing each other. Cell phones came out around that time, which was great because we started talking again. But by 1992, there was texting, and we've been texting ever since. And that was really the dawn of the isolation age, which we're living in right now. You know, social interaction has been on the decline for decades. Right now, religious affiliation, which is really how historically people got together at least once a week to communicate and kind of worship but at least get together and have that social interaction. Sadly, though, 1/4 of the American population do not have a religious affiliation. 35% of the millennials do not have a religious affiliation, and we're just becoming more and more isolated as technology grows and grows and grows, and we become more dependent on that. Studies show that loneliness increases the risk of dying by 26%, and living alone increases the risk of all-cause mortality by a whopping 32%. Studies actually show that when you live alone or you spend a lot of time in isolation, it actually increases certain proteins in your body. So it's chemical. And they isolated about 175 different proteins that are directly linked to people who are more isolated or more lonely. And that has been shown to increase the risk of cholesterol levels, insulin levels, blood sugar levels, heart disease, and even cancers. Amazing, right? And also shrink the emotional centers of the brain, which give you that level of satisfaction and underlying access to your own happiness, which is really quite amazing. So there are many things that we can do, and I wrote a whole article about this at lifespa.com where I dive into all the science, which you can read. There are Ayurvedic herbs you can take. One herb called Bacopa has been shown to be a very effective agent to support mood and mood stability. In a study with 54 adults all over 65 years old, they showed that the Bacopa supported, better happiness, less worry, less stress, more focus, better memory, things that really support mood stability. That's a brain-derived neurotropic factor, so it builds brain cells and builds up those parts of the brain that have gotten shrunken due to stress and loneliness as well. So that's really important. Also, things you can do as well, you can do what we really all need to be doing is making attempts to become more social. Join a gym, get into a meditation group or a prayer group, book clubs, meetup groups, get a pet and go to a dog park or a kiddie park and interact with people, in areas that you're particularly interested in, which is a really important thing to do. In Ayurveda, there's 3 mental doshas. One is called sattva, which is the ability to be loving and giving and kind and happy and joyful for no reason, which is a trick these days. And then most of us have traded that in for something called rajasic behavior, which is the need to get stimulated to be happy. I need a cup of coffee to feel good in the morning. I need to go shopping to feel good about myself. I need to watch a movie to sort of distract myself and feel good. I long for a movie. I long for a glass of wine. I long for something from the outside to stimulate me to feel good. And that's rajasic behavior. We're living on dopamine, which is, yes, a hormone that gives reward chemistry, but the problem is that the more that you stimulate those reward centers, those dopamine receptors, the more sort of depleted they become, and the less dopamine they produce, so the less happiness that you get. So you need more and greater stimulation to get that same reward chemistry, basically that same level of happiness. And then that can create such a depletion in those receptors that you can't get the happiness anymore. And that's what Ayurveda calls tamasic behavior, where you actually find yourself retreating and withdrawing into more loneliness behavior. Now, studies show that a lot of folks that are lonely, they get into repetitive patterns of behavior. They keep doing, they ruminate, they isolate, they do the same things again. And in Ayurveda, there's an old saying that says you must do the thing you hate and fear to do. You have to, if you are a little bit isolated, then you have to find a way to go through that pain, go through that fear. And you realize that fear was just a mindset that was somehow keeping you safe, but actually making you more isolated. And we have to interact and expose ourselves to and move through those fears as opposed to retreating from them. We call it a spiritual warrior. And that's really the game of life. When you isolate a fear or an inhibition, you have to find a way to take action to free yourself from that fear. In Ayurveda, it said, there's an old saying that says that yogasa kuru kamane, which means establish being. First, find the truth. What are you really afraid of? And then take action. And you must take action based on that fear. Another old saying that says, to the extent that something affects you or someone affects you is the extent that it is your karma, your opportunity to take transformational action and free yourself from those old underlying repetitive patterns of behavior. Again, doing the same dumb thing again and again and again and expecting some kind of different result to get happy somehow, some way. So the idea is yoga, breathe, meditate, pray, find some stillness, which yes, a little bit of isolation, become self-aware of the fears and then take action to move through them. It's like fruit ripening on a tree. Not all the fruits ripe at the same time. You pick the ripe, the low-hanging fruit. Fears and action steps that you find that you can handle and muster and move through, and eventually you'll start picking at that fruit that would be more related to core levels of emotional dysregulation, fears, behavioral patterns that aren't serving you, that come from childlike patterns of behavior that you needed to create to survive your childhood, but now as adults you're still running that same program, doing the same dumb thing again and again, and it's time for you to start pulling back that bow, diving deep, becoming really clear, brutally honest with yourself to see where that pattern of behavior comes from, and then begin to take action. That means going out and enjoying it and becoming social, even though you're scared to death to be social. Find a way to actually move through those fears, and that will give you the rejuvenation of those reward chemistry receptors. It would give you that rejuvenation and that building up of those certain parts of your brain that support happiness and joy, which is always there, but our brain creates these protective barriers from fear to not give you access, which that's always there waiting for us to access. And I've written articles about that. You can actually take a questionnaire on my website called the emotional body type quiz, and you can take a little quiz and find out where in your life are you more sattvic, where in your life are you more rajasic, and where are you more tamasic. And you want to start taking action to fix those tamasic aspects, and that's called the emotional body type quiz. I'll put a link so you can have access to that as well. Really important information. All right, so go to LifeSpa.com, read the full article, go get the emotional quiz, take that quiz, find out where your weak links are, and I've given you some guidelines of steps to follow to actually free yourself from those old underlying emotional patterns that may be related to why we have allowed ourselves to stay lonely and stay isolated. It's a little easier, but at the end of the day, it's something that's not really serving us and feeding us the way that we desperately need. All right, thanks for listening. I'm Dr. John Douillard. Hi everybody, I just want to take a minute and tell you what we do here at LifeSpa.com. I've been in practice now for 40 years, 38 of them have been practicing Ayurvedic medicine full-time. For the last 20 years, I've been writing articles and doing videos on the ancient medical wisdom of Ayurveda with the modern science. If something's been around for 1,000 years, still practiced today, and you have modern science to prove it, boy, I really feel like that's something we should all be taking a look at. And that's what we do at LifeSpa.com, and all that information is for free. So just go to LifeSpa.com and search in your health topic, and you'll get the information, the article that you need, hopefully that will help you. While you're there, check out our Ayurvedic store. You can get there through LifeSpa.com or go to store.lifespa.com. And there we have all of our organic Ayurvedic herbs, organic skincare line, more books, tapes, knowledge that we give you is all there at our store. All of our cleansing kits are there in our store. All of our herbs are whole herbs with the natural occurring microbiome, the way it came out of the soil. And that's critically important, because if I took the bugs out of you, you'd be completely different. We take the bugs away from a plant, like sterilizing and making an extract or spraying your food with pesticides, you lose significant benefit of that plant. And that's why we use the whole plant with the natural occurring microbiome. So check us out, learn more about what we're doing here at LifeSpa.com, and we'll see you again.
This recording is brought to you by LifeSpa, where ancient Ayurvedic wisdom meets modern science. Get access to free health video newsletters by Dr. John at LifeSpa.com. These statements have not been evaluated by the FDA. These products are not intended to diagnose, treat, cure, or prevent any disease.